revolution we are lucky enough to be living through. In the history is very much with us in this splendid old building, but I guess none of us really remembers that the telephone was introduced in 1878. Well, some 140 years later, we no longer talk about telephones, but about smartphones, multi-dimensional, multitask, and indeed much smarter than we are most of the time. Which means that I'm sure as addictive as we have all become, you will be able to continue with your addiction throughout this conference, because our friend Jakub Katzmann has devised some tools for us to contribute with your questions to the panels, which will follow the opening ceremony later on this afternoon. And of course, tomorrow, you can see the hashtag DA17EU. You have a Wi-Fi, of course, and a password for the Wi-Fi. You'll also be able to contribute your questions by using Slido. And there again, that's the process you have to follow in order to put in your questions. Today, as we all know, we celebrate the end of roaming charges throughout the European Union territory. And so, without any more suspense, let me call upon Roberto Viola, who is the Director General of DG Connect at the European Commission, to officially open this conference.
Welcome. So it's an honor and a pleasure to welcome and open the conference. Actually, I have good news for you. The first one is I'm not going to deliver you a speech. The second one is make sure that you log into Wi-Fi for EU. That's the Wi-Fi network here, and hopefully this will be the Wi-Fi networks that we'll deploy all over Europe. And this is thanks to the work we have done with the European Parliament and the Maltese presidency. I love Malta. I love Maltese people. And throughout many years, I learned one thing. They never give up. This is the proof. This building is the proof. The history of this island is the proof. They are resilient. No matter what, they will keep on and fight. And that's what they did during the presidency. I mean, the delivery in the digital domain is impressive. And it's a delivery that today, every one of you, together with more than 500 million citizens in Europe, will touch, which is no roaming anymore. And next year, portability of content, and hopefully also stopping the things that we don't want is to be blocked when we buy online. So well done, Malta. Thank you very much for hosting us. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's a real great pleasure to introduce the Prime Minister of Malta, Mr. Muscat.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Malta. Welcome to this great building. Some history lessons. This was the first hospital in Europe, or the oldest hospital in Europe, still surviving. It was built by the Knights of St. John, and its peculiarity is the fact that it is the first known hospital to host people of all religions. So despite the fact that the Knights Hospitaliers were Christian, over here, all people from all religions, be it Muslims, be it Christians, be it people from other continents, they would be given free medical care over here. So it's a building we are extremely proud of. Welcome also to the first roaming charge-free day. I think it's a great accomplishment. It's an accomplishment that is very close to my heart. Back in 2005, I believe, or 2006, when I was still a member of the European Parliament, I was put in charge of the Internal Market Committee's report on the first slashing of the roaming charges, and we have come a long way since then. I find a little bit of poetic justice in the fact that something that I started off together with so many colleagues and friends in Parliament and within the Commission and Council more than 10 years ago has arrived to its finish line at the same time that our country holds its presidency. As Europeans, we are witnessing a major transformation in our society. Digital era is affecting and benefiting most of us in most of the aspects of our lives. As an island nation with no physical links to the mainland, Malta is uniquely sensitive towards the benefits that connectivity and digitalization can bring about. Our window to the outside world was limited by the lack of connectivity that comes along from being a small island, an independent state. This new era of digitalization has transformed this country and ushered in a new era, creating new opportunities, quality jobs, and growth, and some things that were unimaginable until a decade or so ago. To give you some national context, two of our largest industries, the financial services industry and the online gaming industry, would not have been possible without the adequate communication infrastructure. This is just a mere example of the importance of the digital single market, and it is therefore paramount that we endeavor not only to complete this single market, but also to strive to ensure that whatever we achieve is fit for purpose, not only for the present, but for the years to come. The Digital Assembly has become a showcase of the Union's advances in the digital sector, and I believe now more than ever in the importance of giving the digital sector the attention that it deservedly merits. As legislators, I admit that keeping up with the pace of technological change has its challenges. One only needs to look at the impact that social media has had on news consumption alone to understand the need to keep ourselves abreast of these changes. I believe this applies to us as a European Union. It also applies to us as Malta. We are proud to be at the forefront to put forward ideas related to the digital economy. Actually, when last week I formed my second government after a fresh mandate, I purposely took the portfolio of the digital economy under my oversight and appointed a junior minister in order to be solely focused on the digital economy, because I believe that what we achieved over the past decade or so is just the tip of the iceberg of other opportunities, so many other opportunities we can achieve as a country. And really and truly, if such a small member state can overachieve thanks to the right infrastructure and thanks to the right investment in the digital infrastructure, how much more can we achieve if we work together in this area as a European Union? The theme of the Maltese presidency, which is slowly but surely approaching its end, reunion, encapsulates what we have aimed to achieve during this unique moment in our proud history, especially in the digital context. At its heart, reunion means reconnecting the citizens of the European Union at individual, corporate, and state level, with each other, with their governments, with the European Union, and with the world. We are ambitious, but we acknowledge that this work cannot be achieved in just 6 months. What we do know, however, is that we can make a start, and we have made a start with so many things that we have achieved together. As holders of the presidency of the Council of the European Union, we have made it our mission to ensure that this concept of reunion is embedded in our work. The change that we needed to be done was timely kept, from portability of rights to Wi-Fi for EU files, to geo-blocking, to the wholesale roaming. We have made it our priority to keep the pace of reform one that is as swift as possible. The challenge of having 5G rolled out in the European Union by 2020, something that we are already testing here, is a very important one. 5G has the potential of changing the economic paradigm, and we must ensure that we are prepared for this shift, not only on a technical level, but most importantly, on a political level. We must look also at new areas of development in Europe. Some 3 months ago in Brussels, while addressing a CEPS conference, I said that we should not be afraid of blockchain or Bitcoin. We should actually become the blockchain continent. We should become the Bitcoin continent. We should harness the disruptive changes that are around us and seek to regulate them in a proactive manner. The message I have for you as stakeholders is that we need to work together. We need to be as ambitious as possible. I do believe that the world is looking for leadership right now in so many areas, and this is the time for Europe to assert itself as a leader in the digital economy. Thank you very much, and enjoy your stay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. Let us now give a warm welcome to the Vice President of the European Commission, who, of course, plays a key role in the digital strategy of the European Union, Andrus Ansip.
Thank you. Dear Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be back here in Malta again. Thank you very much for inviting me. First of all, I would like to thank Maltese government for the excellent presidency. It's difficult to repeat success achieved by Malta during the presidency. We are not just talking about abolishing of roaming surcharges, but we have to discuss about this. This is a remarkable achievement for the whole year. But we have to talk also about 700 megahertz. Thanks to Malta, we reached a consensus in this quite specific issue, and everybody has to know that we can just dream about having 5G in the European Union without clarity in this 700 megahertz band. It will never happen. So portability of the content. If people, they don't have to pay for those high roaming surcharges anymore, they would like to get access to their legally bought digital content even when traveling to some other EU member states. Thanks to Maltese presidency, it will happen. 9 months, next year, our people, they can enjoy their favorite movies, TV series, music, e-books, audiobooks, football, which is extremely important, even when they spend their holidays in some other EU member states. So Wi-Fi for EU, Marrakesh Treaty, which is especially important for blind people, once again. Thanks to Maltese presidency, we were able to bring clarity also in those issues. But this presidency is not over yet. I hope we will get good news also about abolishing unjustified geo-blocking, which is a real headache for European citizens today. If just every third person who wanted to buy some goods and services from another country was able to conclude those purchases successfully, then we can't talk about single market we would like to have in the European Union. So once again, I'm grateful. Thank you very much for a very good presidency. So, digital issues are firmly on the global political agenda wherever you look, at the G7, G20, OECD, United Nations. It is a clear sign of their socio-economic importance and political relevance. Just 15 years ago, less than a generation, data flows barely existed. Trade flows, on the other hand, have been with us for hundreds of years. Now, after 20 years of growth, they have declined relatively to GDP. In contrast, data flows are surging between countries as they get progressively more connected. Digital has become a key part of today's economic reality. The Harvard Business Review summed this up nearly in the title of an article last year. Globalization is becoming more about data and less about stuff. We have entered a new era of digital globalization, defined by data flows that transmit information, ideas, and innovation. And as data flows go global, Europe has to look beyond its borders. So we are building a new single market, one that allows the freedoms of the single market that we created some 25 years ago to enter the digital age. It will give us the chance to promote digital technologies for development, to steer global discussions on internet governance and technical standards, to push for a greater role for digital in our trade policy. Digital has to be made an integral part of all policy areas, including development and foreign policy. That was the conclusion made by EU foreign ministers last November. We have made a good start in implementing their call based on the principles and approach of the digital single market. This is a good opportunity to build on its values, policies, and regulatory models. Fair and open competition with predictable and stable market conditions for businesses, investors, and consumers. An open and secure internet that facilitates the free flow of information. A strong focus on data protection, privacy, and cybersecurity, as well as internet governance. The digital single market is Europe's main asset in the international digital economy and society. It spans different sectors as they embrace digital technology to innovate, become more efficient, and stay globally competitive. Industry, health, transport, agriculture, to name just a few. But digital reaches into other broad policy areas as well, trade and foreign relations, for example. It reflects the growing importance of the digital economy for growth and jobs, for society, for business and consumer. That not only applies to the digital single market that we are building in Europe. It is the same message that we have for the outside world. With EU development policy, for example, digital is now embedded in an integral element. By promoting digitization, We aim to accelerate the economies of developing countries, particularly in Africa. Here, we have projects planned in areas like e-agriculture, digital skills, e-governance, and cooperation on startups. This is where European development policy can make a real difference on the ground. Technology can help to eradicate poverty and promote sustainable development. But people have to know how to use it, learn from it, and make the most of it, which is why promoting digital literacy and skills is part of the EU development agenda. A few years ago, the EU developed the Eastern Partnerships so that we could share the benefits of European integration across our eastern borders. Digital helps us to make sure that it happens more quickly and effectively. The EU wants to help the 6 partnership countries to develop their local digital economies, bridge the digital knowledge divide, and better prepare the national workforce. Trade and association agreements are another area with great digital potential. They can promote and facilitate trade in data and in goods and services, telecoms and e-commerce, for example, and eventually data flows as well. They are useful for securing cooperation in digital policies, particularly on cybersecurity, standards, certification, and labeling to reinforce the security of connected objects globally. And they are a good vehicle for tackling new forms of digital protectionism or other market access issues by removing unjustified barriers that distort trade flows and investments. However, this all depends on our partners matching EU standards on data protection, or adequacy, as it is called. The Commission is looking at possible adequacy decisions with key trading partners in Asia, starting with Japan and South Korea. We have made sure that digital is properly included in ongoing trade negotiations with Latin American countries, Mexico, and the Mercosur group. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not have to build the next Silicon Valley to profit from the new digital era and the opportunities that it offers. But we do need to be linked into the global digital economy and have the right infrastructure. That is true for any country. Connections are a social and economic lifeline. Affordable and inclusive global connectivity is in everyone's interests, wherever they are located. The EU is playing its part here too, for example, by helping to fund the EU Latin America submarine cable between Portugal and Brazil. This long-awaited link will provide a direct fiber optic hookup between Europe and South America, improving communications and cutting connection costs. Of course, international cooperation on digital matters is not only about infrastructure. The EU has a strong political and financial commitment to science and research cooperation. It works closely with its partners directly and via numerous international bodies on a wide range of related issues. These include internet governance, cybersecurity, interoperability, and the common technical standards needed for 5G and IoT technologies, cloud computing, among others. Open cooperation and discussions are vital in all these areas. Why? Because they affect the whole of the world's digital community, especially given the increasing importance of data flows in every type of global exchange. In turn, that requires stable, open, and predictable markets. Another key foreign policy principle for the European Union. Overall, the EU's position on the international digital stage is solid. And that means a solid opportunity to promote the values of the digital single market, to help create the right policy and regulation environment for the world's developing digital economy. A secure, fair, and balanced global data economy that will serve everyone, wherever they are in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Ansip. If you have time just for a couple of questions after this very broad and forward-looking presentation of the European digital strategy. Of course, we all know that it's been very much at the core of President Juncker's plan for your Commission with the support of the European Parliament. What have been so far the main obstacles, if any?
We all know decision process in the European Union is quite slow. But it's also clear we have to take time for democracy. It will stay as it is. No quick decision-making. We have to take time for democracy. It means all our decisions, they have to be future-proof. For many countries, for many businesses, it's quite difficult to change the business model, even if knowing that the existing business model is totally unsustainable. And too often, those who don't want to change this unsustainable business model are quite vocal. But I don't want to complain. I just gave a long list of achievements where we were able to reach consensus just thanks to Maltese presidency. I'm looking forward optimistically. This presidency is not over yet, but there will be also Estonian presidency, Bulgarian presidency, Austrian presidency, and I'm absolutely sure Europe will be much closer to digital single market after those presidencies. Thank you.
What would be your 3 priorities for the next 2 years? We know there are some other good news in the tubes concerning, for the consumers, first of all.
We launched our digital single market strategy already 2 years ago. We set 16 different aims. We launched 35 proposals, including 21 legislative proposals. And the first aim is to conclude negotiations about all those proposals. But secondly, we have to deal with some new areas we didn't cover with our digital single market strategy. We have to take care about data economy in the European Union. We have to allow free data flows across the European Union, and at the same time we have to provide also access to data stored in some other countries, for example, for law enforcement. And we have to deal with cybersecurity issues, even globally, because, in the European Union, we launched our cybersecurity in the year 2013, and not so many years And now we have to say that this is a totally different situation, and then we have to have review of this cybersecurity strategy. We have at least to try to agree in global common cybersecurity standards, for example, for the Internet of Things. This is becoming bigger and bigger, this issue. According to some prognosis, we will have approximately 50 billion connected devices globally by 2020. And we know last autumn, bad guys were able to create botnets based on connected devices. It's too easy nowadays to create botnets based on connected devices. We have to deal with those issues. We have to pay much more attention also on on cyber hygiene. To wash hands, everybody knows it's needed somehow, but in cyberspace, we are not taking care about cyber hygiene so much. So this was the third aim for me during the coming years. Thank you.
Just one more question, if I may, coming from someone in the audience, or indeed from our web links. I'll take, it's anonymous, as most of the questions on the web, as we all know. Makes it easier at times. Why doesn't the EU encourage the use of data and keeps adding restrictions?
In some areas, of course, some kind of restrictions will be needed when talking about national security data. But today, trend, not only in the European Union, but globally, is quite bad. In the European Union, for example, we already have 56 different rules dealing with forceful data localization. It's so easy to keep data inside of countries. You don't have to launch so many laws for that. According to our prognosis, if we will be able to remove already existing barriers from free data flows, we will be able to cut from those cloud service prices for 7.2 billion euros within the next 5 years. But the influence on economical developments will be much bigger, 8 billion euros a year. So it will be beneficial also in economical meaning to allow free data flows across the European Union. Today, if we will continue with those forceful data localization trends, then we will send a very bad message, especially to our startups. Global players, maybe they will find funds to have 28 data centers in 28 member states. But for small and medium-sized businesses, for startups, it's absolutely impossible. And if we will go on with those forceful data localization trends, we will send a very simple message to our startups. Stay at home, or go to the United States, where there is single market with 300 million healthy customers. Of course, we don't want to send that kind of messages to our startups. And that's why we have to allow free data flows across the European Union. We have to remove those unjustified barriers. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We'll have other occasions in the afternoon to engage with you. Now it's time for a coffee break, half an hour, and please come back on time for our first panel discussion on all these roaming issues. Thank you very much.